Barcelona are still in the market, they're searching for a new centre forward. Omoko Julian Alvarez Wanyeye. They went to Luis Suarez of Sporting Lisbon. They've not made any progress there. Now, Barcelona have two more options. They are looking at signing Gabriel Jesus from Arsenal, but they are worried about his injury situation and his injury records. Now, this brings Barcelona down to two very organic, radical decisions. Yes, and today I'm here to explore those two options for you to understand what the options of Deco and Hansi Flick are in this material point in time. Manchester United is at the verge of completing the signing of Carlos Baleba, the Cameroonian defensive midfielder from Brighton and Hove Albion. Conversations are ongoing intensely, and very soon we could hear a here we go on this particular conversation. This is ASK Morgan Sports. Please stay with me as we explore all of these for you. Now, in last season, there were a number of 269 goals scored through set pieces. Now, these set pieces do not include direct free kicks or penalty kicks. These were free kicks, well-worked free kicks or connected free kicks or corner kicks, throw-ins that amounted to 269 goals. Now, the percentage represents 25.7% of the total goals scored in the season, and it is the highest in the world across all top 5 leagues, even in the World Cup. But then there's a very important statistic that in the World Cup they recorded 17.5% of these goals. Now, the Premier League referees chief, Howard Webb, has studied a significant pattern from the World Cup, and as of now, it is being implemented in the Premier League. What is this trend? The trend is that the World Cup had introduced stringent measures to manage set pieces and its exploitation. For that matter, the Premier League is also going to copy same, because they think that this 17.5% small percentage of goals resulting from set pieces is as a result of stringent measures and disciplinary policies implemented on the pitch that has prevented a lot of teams from scoring through set pieces. Now, what is the problem? The problem is that last season, when Arsenal was winning the Premier League, many people accused Arsenal and many other clubs in the Premier League that they were exploiting set pieces. And usually when corner kicks and then long free kicks are set, you see players hassling others, goalkeepers being dragged down, and a whole lot of things. If there is any particular singular subject that has tarnished the image of the English Premier League as far as last season is concerned, it is the problem of set pieces. If it is any particular thing that has created doubts in the minds of spectators and individuals on the credibility of Arsenal winning the Premier League last season, it was how they approached set pieces. Today, Howard Webb and then ProRef, the professional referees organization in England, they've taken a decision, and that decision, it will be implemented today, beginning from Arsenal's game. Beginning from Arsenal's game to begin the English Premier League. They'll be taking stringent measures in situations of set pieces. What are these new rules that they've brought? Now, they describe a situation of non-sporting holding. So first of all, to understand this particular thing of non-sporting holding, the game concedes that the game of football is a contact sport. And the moment both of us are on the pitch playing football, one way or the other, we are going to make contact, okay? I'm going to make contact with you. But there's a category where we define some contacts as sporting contacts and others as non-sporting contacts. You understand? For example, both of us jump into the air for a header and then our shoulders collide, or our shoulders collide or something. That is a sporting contact. However, the situation where somebody is dragging somebody down, somebody is holding somebody with both hands, now the referees describe these as non-sporting holdings and should be penalized. Now they are going to attract stringent bookings, non-negotiable fouls, to the extent that even VAR reviews we are going to apply to some of these situations. What are these specific situations? There are four key situations that the pro ref have decided and they have agreed to implement in the upcoming season. I'll walk you through. So the first one is that not looking at the ball and focusing on the opponent. So oftentimes when there's a corner kick or when there's a free kick and that is being effected, you see a player, a defending player for that matter, who is not focusing on the ball at all. His job is not to get the ball. His job is to make sure the opponent's player does not get the ball. According to them, this is a clear-cut foul. And if that person is a defending player, it is a penalty straightforward. So usually, sometimes, instead of facing the ball when there's a free kick against your team, they turn their back to face the ball, and then they'll be watching the player they are marking intently. And for them, that is the intent alone is to obstruct the player and not to get the ball. So then, as the game unfolds, the focus of this player, according to them, the focus of this player is to target the player, the opponent's player, focus on the opponent's player and make sure he does not get the ball. Now, the Premier League is not going to entertain that again. If you are a defending player, that amounts to a penalty. Yes, that amounts to a penalty, and it's a yellow card. It's a booking for you for not focusing on the ball and then focusing on the player you are playing against. Now, the second thing is that making no attempts to play or challenge the ball. So a corner kick has been effected into the 18 yard. While the ball is landing, everybody is jumping, trying to head the ball. In fact, the opponents are jumping, trying to head the ball. You are in that situation, you are in the scenario, not making any efforts to get the ball. The ball has never been your target. You're not even jumping, you're not even stretching to get the ball. What you are doing is hustling the player, making it difficult for the player to get enough breathing space to attack the ball. It is a clear-cut foul against you. You know, there are some players who are positioned in a specific position, like, okay, they assume a specific position, a dangerous position, just to make sure the goalkeeper cannot pounce on the ball. You understand? Yes, just to make sure the goalkeeper cannot pounce on the ball, so that the goalkeeper would slip and then somebody else will tap the ball in. In this situation, it is a clear-cut foul against this team. You should, once you are in the region where the ball is approaching, when you make contact with a player, that contact should be in a manner where you have intended to get the ball. Without the intention to play the ball, if you make contact, it is a foul. If you are not lucky, you can get yourself into the bookings. Now, holding the opponent with both hands. We could often see that when a corner kick is being effected, before a corner kick is effected, you know, defending players and attacking players would mark themselves 1v1. Then we realize that once an attacking player is making the run, a defending player is holding him with both hands as if they are about to hug, as if he's about to hug the player. So all of these things will not be entertained in the Premier League this season. In fact, all of these attract serious, severe punishments like bookings, and so it would have to be prevented. You can't hold somebody during set pieces with both hands. Onye wadamfo unia no onye unia obi ko bonebo wodun samienu kura ni mu kune unim gripping. No, we will not entertain all of these in the upcoming season. Now, committing sustained and or impactful holding on an opponent or clothing. So for example, sustained holding. So you may use your one hand, but sustained and impactful. So for example, the goalkeeper is out of his line. Just when the goalkeeper was about to jump and pounce on the ball, you had your hand on his shoulders. You don't know how your hand got there, but all of a sudden your hand is on the goalkeeper's shoulders. That is a foul clear cut. That is a foul clear cut. The ball has been played into the area. The defender, the striker is just about to pounce on the ball with a nice leap to head the ball. Just when he was jumping, your hand is around his neck. Just when he was jumping, your hand is around his neck. We will not entertain this in the Premier League. So all of this hustling and brawling up in various 18 boxes, are going to attract severe punishment. And according to Howard Webb, the biggest problem is the courage to effect the serious penalties or the serious punishments for these offenses. And so that is what the referees are working on now, so that they will be bold, they will have the courage to effect the penalties of these particular infringements. That when you commit these offenses, now whatever yellow, whatever booking you deserve will be received, whatever penalty or whatever situation against your team would be awarded. Now, we are looking at some winners and losers in this particular scenario. So, in the just ended season, okay, Newcastle was the let me say joint second team that conceded the most in set pieces. It was Newcastle and Chelsea, 17 goals. Then Liverpool conceded 19 goals out of set pieces. It is our understanding that when these new rules are implemented in the Premier League, these three teams are going to be the best winners of this particular decision, because then they were the biggest losers when this chasing and hustling and pulling down was very rampant in the previous season's Premier League. Now, who are the losers? Now, Tottenham Hotspur scored 19 times from set pieces. Okay, they are the third best team. I think the fourth would be Aston Villa. They could score around 17 or so. But Tottenham Hotspur are the third best team scoring from set pieces. They scored 19 times. Probably this rule can reduce that number significantly. Manchester United scored 21 times from set pieces. You know, when Bruno won the top assist, people questioned that most of the assists that he was making were from set pieces, long free kicks, corner kicks, and all of that. Yes, so Manchester United are also going to be losers when these rules are implemented very, very well. Now, the last one are Arsenal, the Gunners, because they scored 25 times from set pieces. But not just that, Arsenal exclusively benefited from the set pieces manipulation, because they also considered the least in the Premier League. They considered only 7. That is why when every time we gather, we shower a lot of praise on the set pieces coach of Arsenal, the Gunners. Not just because of that, not just because of their scoring abilities from set pieces, scoring 25, but also mapping out a very nice way to defend against set pieces, which meant that they only considered 7 goals in set pieces. Now, Manchester United is at the verge of completing the signing of Carlos Baleba. Now, from what we understand with Carlos Baleba, Manchester United is likely to close the deal at £75 million. Yesterday, they were there. In fact, today they are going with a new deal to finish the deal. Sources around Old Trafford are very confident that this is going to happen. We are also hearing that Lewis Hall has informed Newcastle United that wants to join Manchester United. It is likely that the moment they confirm Carlos Baleba, they are likely to confirm Lewis Hall as well as the next Manchester United left back. But let me stay on Carlos Baleba. Now, Manchester United has introduced Carlos Baleba into their midfield, and so this brings the midfield tally to around 7 reliable midfielders: Bruno Fernandes, a certain Shea Lacey, there's a certain Kobe Mainoo, there's a certain Yuri Telemans, there's Andre Santos, there's Mason Mount, and now Carlos Baleba. That is even in the absence of Manuel Ugarte, who is currently recovering from an ACL injury. Now, how does Carlos Baleba transform the midfield of Manchester United? Now, let me use these traditional thoughts, yes, but I would disagree with the traditional thoughts later on. The traditional midfield profile that we know is that we have an anchor man, then we have a playmaker, and then we have a creative figure who is leading them, the number 6, the number 8, and the number 10. That is what we've been made to understand as how the midfield or a midfield should function, bringing 3 different qualities in players to create a balanced midfield that can both defend, attack, and also play through transitions. That is the traditional notion, but let me reject it, because in the situation we are talking about, the Manchester United situation, United has never relied on an anchor man before, and I'll prove to you why. United has never relied on an anchor man before. what United knows, what United prefers to do from their history, what they've done hitherto, is to play with two box-to-box midfielders who are good players in defense and are good on the offensive, and particularly can play through the transition, can engineer the quick runs and quick attacks. But let me get into it. Now, what Manchester United has relied on in the past have been athletic players with legs but can play. Most essentially, players who can play but with legs and athleticism. So, for example, somewhere in the 80s, there was Brian Robson and then Paul Ince. Brian Robson was that aggressive figure who could run everywhere on the pitch. And then Paul Ince was what people refer to as the governor, Then Brian Robson would make all the runs and all of that. But when it mattered most for one of them to go forward and then join the attack, it was Brian Robson, the aggressive guy, who joined the attack and could score from anywhere, whilst Paul Ince stays back to continue with the distribution. That has always been the dynamics of midfields in Manchester United. Now, from 1995 to 2003, Manchester United played with a midfield predominantly of Roy Keane and then Paul Scholes, and sometimes Nicky Butt came in to support and make the runs. Now, this midfield was characterized by two effective box-to-box midfielders. So, Roy Keane, as we know, was a very passionate midfielder with a lot of energy and athleticism, who could run many kilometers just to stop one attack and then set Manchester United's attack rolling. Before you see, he will be in the opponent's 18 box. He wasn't particularly a number 6, but he was playing that aggressive role as a box-to-box midfielder. For Paul Scholes to also sometimes sit back and do the distribution with his long passes, and other times also follow up and score goals. So Manchester United have always played with that dynamic midfield where one runs, one distributes, but the person who runs is not static. If it is anything, it is a distributor who sometimes stays static. That has always been the dynamic of Manchester United's midfield. From 2003 to 2006, it was Keane, and Darren Fletcher was brought in, and Darren Fletcher held the fort for Roy Keane, because Roy Keane was getting injured. And at that point in time, Paul Scholes, Owen Hargreaves, all of those players came to add up to the numbers. So it was a certain Darren Fletcher who was doing the movement, making the runs for the midfield. And we've all known Darren Fletcher never to be a defensive midfielder, never to be an anchor man. He runs everywhere on the pitch, effects his tackles, win the ball for Manchester United, and then pass the ball to the distributor to distro. You understand? That has always been the pattern of play for Manchester United. And so for a defender, a midfielder to be sitting in front of the defenders to clean the area, it has never happened in the history of Manchester. It has never existed. Now, this particular game changed from 2006 to 2013 upon the arrival of Michael Carrick. So there were players like Anderson, Cleverley, all of those players were also in the teams. Once in a while, Ryan Giggs will be featured as a midfielder. All of these happened under Sir Alex Ferguson. But the person who changed the face of the midfield is Michael Carrick. Ironically, Michael Carrick is currently the manager for Manchester United. I hope that by the time I'm done, you would understand why the midfield of Manchester United is very, very important today, and Andre Santos is the most important player in that midfield today. I'll explain. Now, Michael Carrick says, when Michael Carrick came, he changed three important philosophies of Sir Alex Ferguson and Manchester United. Michael Carrick chose interception over tackles. And so according to Michael Carrick, instead of running 50 meters to go and put in a tackle, or running 30, 40 meters to go and put in a slide tackle, stay in the danger zone, block the passing lanes, and intercept the pass, and quickly return the favor to your opponents, according to Michael Carrick. So since that time, he has always been topping the list of Manchester United players in terms of interceptions. because for him, the best way to defend is to intercept. When they pass, then you intercept. Instead of going to use physique to win the ball from somebody, just stay in the zone, block the passing lanes, do the shadow marking, stay around the places that zonally mark your opponents. So whenever the player with the ball tries to find one of your opponents, you will quickly intercept and move on. That is according to Michael Carrick, and he changed that. So instead of Roy Keane and co putting in the tackles, instead of Darren Fletcher putting in the tackles, it became more of an interception-based kind of game. So when they play Carrick and Darren Fletcher, Carrick will sit in front of the defense, Darren Fletcher will make all the running, and Carrick will dictate the tempo of the game. He will determine how the game will be played. And I'll come to that. So Carrick brought vertical line breaking passes to Manchester United. So previously, Manchester United was just attacking through the flank. So we get the ball, we give it to David Beckham, he goes through, and then he's gone. So when Cristiano Ronaldo came, he continued with that dribble through, we go. But when Carrick came, Carrick was like, oh, but if Rooney is running, we can just make one pass to Rooney and then he will be open with the goalkeeper. If Dimitar Berbatov has dropped back, we could play some 1-2 with him, and then he will exchange the ball with Rooney, and then we will be gone. So why should one man carry the ball through the wings and run all the way to create a penetration for an entire team? And that changed the face of Manchester United football. United was now able to seamlessly create counter-attacking chances, because the moment Michael Carrick intercepts the pass, he will never pass the ball back. He's going to pass it forward, and that was very, very important for Manchester United. Now, and this affected Paul Scholes in a very significant way. As Paul Scholes was aging then, this afforded him the opportunity to change his style of play, and that for me was very, very important. To change from that box-to-box figure to become a playmaker, a true and true playmaker. So with the ball, maybe he could. It came to a double pivot in a 4-4-2 formation, where Paul Scholes and Carrick would be on the same line. One, to play vertical short passes, vertical line breaking short passes. The other, to float the ball into the diagonal areas and then create a quick chance. And both of them gelled up so much, and we know that the rest have been history. In Manchester United today, now, the most important player is André Santos in that midfield, because he's the guy who breaks the line for Michael Carrick. He's the guy who believes in interception like Michael Carrick. That let us not worry ourselves to bulldoze our way through to win balls. Let us stay in our lane, stay in our zone, and when the right time comes, when they pass that semi-loose ball, we can pounce on it and quickly get a counter-attack out of it. So André Santos, if you ask me to predict, André Santos is the guy who cannot be benched in Manchester United, because he's the guy that plays like Michael Carrick. He's the one who plays like Michael Carrick. And so for me, I think he's going to be very, very important in Manchester United. And if you were expecting that Carlos Baleba was coming to Manchester United to start, you are very wrong. He is not coming to Manchester United to start. But I'm sure along the line, as the season progresses and the numerous competitions and various matches that Manchester United have to play, he will be featured in a whole lot. But the style, what Michael Carrick expects from him, is not to come and sit in front of the defense. It is because of his athleticism, the way he runs across the face of the pitch, from his box to the opponent's box, to be to arrive in the box late for a quick second ball. And for me, that is very, very important for Manchester United and how they are going to play. With Carlos Baleba, they can win a tackle in front of their opponent's 18-yard and come and win a ball in front of their own 18-yard, which is very good. Last season, some of us said that we could drive a bus through the midfield of Manchester United, and so I think that is the reason why Carlos Baleba is coming in. And I also think that for some games, sometimes you need a player like Carlos Baleba for some specific games where games that are too physical, games that you get in and then you realize that your players are being bullied with physique. That is one. The second thing is games where you are under pressure and you need to manage the game. Then you bring somebody with energy, with athleticism, who can chase the ball for you. Games that you are unable to control the game. Games that your opponent have totally outclassed you, and then you are down on possession and all of that. Now you need players who can chase the ball for you. You bring in a certain Carlos Baleba, and he will be able to run very well in that midfield and then win the ball for you. And so for me, congratulations to Manchester United for securing the signature of Carlos Baleba. He is an excellent player, no doubt. He's going to help Manchester United, especially in competitions, in the many other competitions they are playing as far as this season is concerned. We hope Manchester United and Brighton come to an agreement soon.